Hello and welcome back to Next Generation Teaching, and this is episode 5. We've covered lesson design, backward design, long-term sequencing and adaptive planning. Today we look at the dimension of planning that makes all of those things work for every student in your room: inclusion and SEND. I want to start with a statement that I believe very deeply. Every teacher is a SEND teacher, not just a SENCO. Not just the specialist. Every single teacher who stands in front of a mixed class is responsible for the learning of every student in it. And with AI as your planning partner, you have more practical tools to act on that responsibility than any generation of teachers before you. Again, this is the same format as previous episodes, with each section having a ready-to-use AI prompt. So, let's go. This video is based on planning for inclusion and SEND, universal design for learning, with AI as your inclusion partner. In this episode, we're going to cover 4 things: the SEND landscape and what it means for your planning, universal design for learning, designing barriers at the start, the graduated approach and how to use it well, working effectively with teaching assistants, and 6 high-impact inclusive strategies, each with a live AI prompt. By the end, you'll have a complete inclusion planning toolkit and you'll know exactly which prompts to use to build into your lessons this week. So, firstly, I'm going to give you some figures and then I'll provide you with the AI opportunity. 1 in 6 students. That's 17% of pupils in England have identified SEND. That's the DfE's 2023 figure. In a class of 30, that's 5 students. Before you count students with unidentified needs, students awaiting assessment, or students whose needs don't meet the threshold for formal identification but still affects their learning. 3 times. SEND pupils are 3 times more likely to receive a fixed term exclusion. Inclusion planning is not just a moral position, it's a direct intervention against some of the worst outcomes in our system. 78%. Nearly 4 out of 5 students with SEND are educated in mainstream schools. Inclusion is not a specialist function, it's everyday teaching. And UDL, Universal Design for Learning. The principle we'll come back to throughout this episode: when you design barriers out at the planning stage rather than retrofitting support afterwards, outcomes improve for every student in the room, not just those with identified needs. Now, where does AI come in? AI can generate SEND profile summaries and classroom strategies for any identified need. It can draft support plan language. It can create tiered tasks and accessible resources. It can help you write TA briefing cards and design diagnostics to identify barriers before they become crises. The most important prompt for this whole episode, and one you can use today, is on screen right now. Try this prompt. I have a student with, and then you state the need in your class and the year, studying, and then give them the topic. Suggest 5 practical classroom strategies I can build into my lesson to plan this week. Give it a go and see if any of those strategies work. Universal Design for Learning was developed by CAST, the Centre for Applied Special Technology, and published as the UDL Guidelines. The framework asks a simple question: how do we design learning environments where every student can access, engage with, and demonstrate understanding without needing individual retrofits? There are 3 principles, and for each one, AI gives you a specific capability. Principle 1. Multiple means of representation. Offer information in more than one format: text, audio, visual, concrete example. The barrier AI removes here is time. Generating a simplified reading, a visual summary, and a vocabulary card set for any topic now takes under 2 minutes. Principle 2 is multiple means of engagement. Offer students a choice in how they connect with the learning, the purpose, relevance, and challenge level. Students with ADHD, anxiety, or low prior attainment often disengage not because the content is too hard, but because no entry point feels achievable or meaningful. AI can write a why this matters hook for your lesson topic, tailored to different students' interests from the same learning objective. And principle 3 is multiple means of expression. Offer varied ways to show understanding, written, oral, visual, dramatic, digital. Assess the thinking and not the format. Students with dyspraxia, EAL learners, students with communication needs, they all show more of what they know when the format is flexible. AI generates 4 alternative response formats for any learning objective in seconds. The insight underneath UDL is this: when you design for the students with the most barriers, you improve the experience for every student in the room. Good, inclusive design is just good design. So you could say, I'm planning a lesson on, and then put your topic in, for a year 8 class that includes students with dyslexia, ADHD and EAL. Using UDL principles, suggest one practical adaptation for each of the 3 UDL principles: representation, engagement, and expression. Give it a go and see if it works. On this slide are 6 common SEND profiles, and for each one there's a set of classroom strategies and a specific AI prompt that generates targeted materials for that need. 1 is dyslexia. Now, dyslexic students like coloured background, chunked text, audio support, word banks, and they like avoiding copying from the board. So for your AI prompt, you could suggest, create a dyslexia-friendly version of this task with short sentences, white space, chunked bullet points, and a bold vocabulary list. Next is ADHD. Students with ADHD prefer short tasks chunked, clear success criteria per chunk, movement breaks, and avoid extended listening. So the AI prompt could say, break this 30-minute task into 5 5-minute micro tasks with a 1-sentence success criterion for each. Then there's autism. Autistic students prefer predictable structure, visual timetables, literal language, and pre-warning of transition. So your AI prompt could say, rewrite these lesson instructions using precise literal language, numbered steps, and add a visual cue suggestion for each transition. Next is EAL learners, who require visual supports, bilingual vocabulary, paired talk before writing, and sentence frames. So your AI prompt could suggest, create a bilingual vocabulary card for this lesson, English term, accessible definition, and a visual description. Dyscalculia and specific learning difficulties. For these students, you need to create concrete examples, step-by-step guides, worked examples with no time pressure. The AI prompt you could use is, write a fully worked example for this task with each step numbered and a brief explanation of why we do it. Then we have students with anxiety and social, emotional and mental health needs. They like predictability, low stakes entry tasks, choice, opt-out signals, and positive framing. So your AI prompt could be, rewrite this task instruction removing any language that implies failure and add an optional entry point so students can choose their starting level. 6 profiles, 6 prompts. Please feel free to pause and take a screenshot of this slide. The graduated approach is a professional framework for supporting students with SEND in England. It comes from the SEND Code of Practice in 2015 and it has 4 stages: assess, plan, do, review. It's a cycle and not a one-off event, and AI accelerates every phase of it. Firstly, you assess. You gather evidence about the student. What are their strengths, their barriers, and what has worked before? AI can design a diagnostic assessment for any topic that specifically looks for common SEND-related barriers. You run it, you interpret it, and then AI builds the tool. Then plan. Set outcomes. decide on support and record the plan. Share it with your TA and, if appropriate, with parents and carers. AI can draft a one-term support plan for a student with any identified need, giving you a structured starting point to personalise with your knowledge of the student. Then there's the do, the implementation of the plan. This is where the lesson level adaptations, the TA deployment, the UDL design all come into play. AI generates 5 lesson level adaptations for any student needs for any lesson plan, specifying who delivers each one, the teacher or the TA. And then you have the review. At the end of a half term or a term, evaluate what worked and what didn't. Feed this into the next cycle. AI can draft a review summary from your notes, what to celebrate, what to change, and 3 SMART targets for next term. Now, there's one important point. The graduated approach is for every student with SENS, not just those with the HCPs. Most SENS support in schools happens at SEN support level with no formal plan, and the graduated approach still applies. Assess, plan, do, review. AI at every stage. So at the bottom, you can see an AI prompt, a graduated approach review writer. Please feel free to screenshot and write it down. Now we're going to look at 6 high-impact strategies that work across the widest range of SEND needs, each with a live AI prompt. This is the slide to pause on. Pre-teaching key vocabulary. Introduce 5 to 8 key terms before the lesson with definition and visual cues. This reduces the cognitive load during instruction. AI builds these vocabulary cards in under a minute. Worked examples with narration. A fully annotated model that shows the thinking and not just the answer. AI writes a worked example with a commentary for each step, making the thinking visible, not just the product. Explicit success criteria. Students know exactly what success looks like before they start. AI writes student-facing I can success criteria for any task, plain language, a maximum of 5 criteria. Flexible response formats allow students to show understanding in written, oral, visual, or diagrammatic form. Assess the thinking. AI generates 4 alternative formats for any learning objective. Thinking time and cold calling preparation. 60 to 90 seconds of silent thinking before asking for responses reduces the penalty for processing difficulties. For students with ADHD, ASD, anxiety and EAL learners, AI writes a 6-question cold call ladder with a think time prompt built into each one. And chunked instructions. No more than 2 or 3 steps at a time, visible and numbered. AI writes any set of instructions into 2-step numbered chunks with a self-check question after each. 6 strategies, all of them straightforward, all of them AI generatable in under 2 minutes. And the insight underneath all of them, these aren't SEND specific strategies. They make learning clearer for every student in the room. So, a quick key insight. The best inclusive strategies are not SEND specific. They make learning clearer for every student. Good inclusion design is just good teaching design. One of the most important findings in the SEND research literature, and one that genuinely changed how the profession thinks about support, comes from the DIS project led by Rob Webster and Peter Blatchford and published in 2013. What they found was this: SEND pupils in mainstream schools often spend more time with teaching assistants and less time with the class teacher, the opposite of what the evidence suggests help. And in that study, students supported by TAs made less academic progress than similar pupils who were not, when that support was deployed reactively rather than proactively. This is not a criticism of teaching assistants. It's a finding about how TAs are deployed, and it is entirely within your control as the class teacher. Reactive deployment and what to avoid. The TA velcro to one student, acting as a substitute teacher for students who are struggling, improvising without a briefing, used for admin tasks while students wait. These patterns reduce student independence and reduce the time students spend with the expert in the room, which is you. Proactive deployment with AI support. A pre-lesson briefing where the TA knows the learning objective, the target students' key barriers, and their specific role during each phase of the lesson. AI writes that briefing card in under a minute. A TA who monitors the whole class during independent work, looking for misconceptions. AI designs the observation checklist. A TA who facilitates peer support, not dependency. AI designs the structured pair task. The TA briefing card prompt on screen is one of the highest value prompts in this entire episode. It turns a 2-minute briefing into a purposeful, professional exchange. Use it tonight for your lesson tomorrow. So, have a look at the prompt at the bottom and see if you can use this for any class where you deploy a TA and see if it has any impact. So here you can see 8 questions to ask before every lesson, and for each one there's a specific AI prompt if your answer is no, not yet, or I'm not quite sure. Firstly, have I identified the key barriers for my SEND students in this lesson? If not, AI can list the most common barriers for any identified need in any subject. Second, does my lesson have multiple entry points? If not, AI suggests 3 different entry points for any task, each accessible to a different learner profile. 3. Have I pre-taught the key vocabulary? If not, AI builds the vocabulary cards for any topic in under a minute. 4. Are my instruction chunked or 2 or 3 steps at most? If not, AI rewrites any instruction set into numbered 2-step chunks with a self-check question. 5. Have I briefed my TA on their specific role today? If not, you know the prompt. 6. Is there a flexible response format available for students who need it? If not, AI generates 4 alternatives for any objective. 7. Have I planned how I'll remove scaffolds over time? If not, AI designs a 4-stage withdrawal plan across the half term. And 8. Specific to AI assisted planning. Could an AI audit find inclusion gaps I've missed? Yes. And this is one of the most powerful things you can do. Paste your lesson plan into AI and ask it to identify gaps for students with dyslexia, ADHD, ASD, and DAL. It will find things you didn't notice. That's not a failure, it's the whole point. So, 8 questions. If you can answer yes to all 8, your lesson is about as inclusive and ready as it can be. If you can't yet, you now have the prompts. Please look at the end to see the audit AI question that you can use as a prompt. So here are our 4 key takeaways. Firstly, every teacher is a SEND teacher. 17% of your students have identified SEND. Good inclusion planning is not specialist work, it's everyday teaching, and AI is now your everyday planning partner for it. Secondly, UDL. Design barriers out at the start. There are 3 principles: representation, engagement, and expression. AI generates UDL aligned materials for any lesson in seconds. The most powerful approach is to build these in at the planning stage and not after you've noticed the student is struggling. Thirdly, the graduated approach. Assess, plan, do, review. AI accelerates every phase. The most important thing to remember is that this cycle applies to every student at SEN support level, not just those with formal plans. And fourthly, TA deployment must be proactive, not reactive. Brief your TA every lesson. AI writes the briefing card. The DIS project told us what good deployment looks like. AI now makes it fast enough to do every time. Your 4 AI actions for this week. Pick one SEND student that you teach. Use the classroom strategies prompt with their specific need and your next topic. Compare AI's list against your current plan. What are you missing? Then take one upcoming lesson plan and run the inclusion audit prompt. Ask AI to identify gaps for students with dyslexia, ADHD, ASD and DAL and act on one suggestion. And if you have a TA tomorrow, use the TA briefing card prompt tonight. Notice whether the lesson feels different when your TA has a specific planned role. And use the pre-teaching vocabulary prompt for your next lesson. Give students the cards 2 days before. Observe what changes when they arrive already knowing the language. And now, a moment to acknowledge where we've been with 5 episodes in. Please refer back to the other ones and see how much we can embed into our teaching. So thank you for watching episode 5, series 1 on curriculum planning and curriculum design. Episode 6 is about how to use AI to save planning time. If you have learned something from this video clip, then please press like, subscribe, click for notifications and share with others so that more teachers and students can benefit ethically from AI and have improved well-being and a better work-life balance. Any suggestions, please place them in the comments section, and I look forward to seeing you all for episode 6.